Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more podcast for the Athletic School podcast. Today, our guest speaker is Tsui. He's a mentor, coach, speaker, writer. He has more than 20 years of experience coaching athletes, professional football, track and field, hockey. He was also a high school teacher for more than 15 years. His book just came out. It's called 13 Ideas to Effortlessly Bring Joy, Calm, and Peace in Your Life. I had the pleasure to read. So after I read the book, I was 100% sure that you would be a good guest speaker. And also Gustavo here is my partner. So thank you guys to be here today. And JT, thanks so much for being here with us.
Well, Igor, Gustavo, I appreciate you for inviting me to come on your podcast, and I look forward to having a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Gustavo.
Yeah, thanks for introducing me today because the other day he forgot, but that's fine. So yes, let's jump to the podcast.
All right. So JT, you've been working with athletes in many different levels, high school, professional, any type of athletes. So my first question for you is, what is the biggest obstacle that athletes face today, in your opinion?
Yeah, no, and that's a great question. It's interesting when you really start to understand what holds athletes back, whether it's, from the little ones all the way up to high school to the professional, there seem to be a lot of themes. And for me, what I notice a lot with the clients, with the athletes and coaches I'm working with, it always comes back to this idea of winning. I always challenge my athletes and coaches to win the next play. Okay. So what I mean by that, it's focusing on, going all in on this next play, because what can get people stuck at all times is sometimes when we think about, 2 plays from now, 5 plays from now, 10 plays from now, that can keep you stuck. So I would say keeping focused on the here and the now is really the thing that athletes must work on if they want to take their game to the next level.
And I think that's really cool. We had a guest speaker in Portuguese, and he was talking about how the sport has been changing with all the technology. Also, the athletes they have been exposed to social medias way more than in the past. And it kind of goes in the same way that you said. Sometimes it's just hard for athletes nowadays to focus on the next play, especially because they have a whole world around them. And sometimes it's hard because of social media, because of like cell phone all the time and this kind of stuff. Do you think the sport has been changing as well?
Yeah, no, and that's definitely a great question. And what I've seen, over the course of, 20 years of coaching, even going back to my experiences, that athletes today are growing up with pressure that we've never seen before, right? There is so much coming at them, right? Social media. And what it's done is it's given people a platform to really judge, right, athletes based on their, how they perceive that athlete is performing. And it's something that no generation of athletes has really had to deal with before, right? So really it's about conditioning and training our athletes to learn to become more objective with themselves, right? To learn how to sort of drown out the noise. Is that easier said than done at sometimes? Absolutely. But the mind is like any muscle. The more focus, repetition you put it through training the mind to be focused on winning the next play, it can really help athletes become more objective with themselves. And when they become more objective with themselves, they're able to be more calm and confident and put more of that energy into, as I said, winning the next play.
Yeah. No, and another insight that I was gonna mention, you mentioned about like going all in the next play, and I feel like in our entire lives, like in many areas in our life, we worry too much about or the past or the future, and we forget about the present. And Ryan Holiday, the guy that writes about stoicism, he talks a lot about that, especially because stoicism talks about that. And there's one speech that he gave that he was mentioning how you control how you play, so like doesn't matter what other people are thinking, doesn't matter what you did in the past, doesn't matter what the outcome is going to be. but the only thing that matters and that you can control, it's how you're gonna, play, how you're gonna, like, if are you going all in, are you going just, half of the way because you are thinking because, oh no, but tomorrow, oh no, but yesterday, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's really important first. And to be honest, it's hard, and I've been trying to do that and it's not easy.
Yeah.
But once we have the knowledge to be aware of those things, becomes easier. And like you said, with a lot of practice, I think that can be possible to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So my next question for you, something that we always talk to each other is about the comfort zone.
Yeah.
We've seen many athletes, they get in a high level, then they cannot improve anymore.
Yeah.
So for you as a mentor, as a coach, you were an athlete as well. How important do you think is to get out of the comfort zone?
Well, again, that's foundational to success, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing grows in the shade, right? I had a former colleague that said that to me, and I'm like, oh, that's really true. Yeah. One thing I often share with my clients is that it's knowing that challenges, obstacles, setbacks will come up from time to time in the game of life, right? But it's understanding that what you do in those moments is really going to impact what happens from there, right? It's that ability to respond, to think great, and to combine that great thought with a great action. And that's how you can, again, focus on winning the next play. And then as you focus on winning that next play, then it's easier to build some momentum.
Mm-hmm. Do you think is it possible to be aware of that during the game? I mean, like, I play volleyball, and then let's say 2 bad plays happens to me, and then I'm not very confident, and then my body language is different, my behavior is different. Do you think the athletes are able to notice right away and feel, no, now I'm not comfortable, so I'm gonna do with that is gonna change the course of the game, of my game? Do you think they can be aware when this happened during the game?
Yes, but this is where I do believe the power of having a great coach and mentor in your life is. And I think for athletes, right, it's not a question of ambition and drive, because that's what athletes do. That's what we've been conditioned to do, right? Like, we'll get up, we'll go do the work. But like anyone, we all have our blind spots, right? I have my blind spots, you have your blind spots. So what I have felt is powerful is, how can we create that shift? So if we are, let's say our athletes are caught in a negative mindset. They keep on replaying the nightmare reel, right? Of all the things they didn't do. How quickly can you create that shift back where they focus on the here and the now, right? So one line I used to use with the athletes is chin off your chest. Because a lot of athletes, when they go, right, what do? Their chin goes on their chest, their body posture just changes. So again, chin off your chest, it gets them up, right? So all of a sudden they can get more air in. So I think, again, as coaches or athletes, as coaches and mentors, we need to have those like sort of trigger words that help our athletes to reframe the situation, that get them to focus on the here and the now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would like to go a little deeper on that, because I think failure is a big part of success. And I was gonna ask you more, like, if you could go on more details, how to help the athletes to deal with failure. How to see failure as a part of the process.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, right? Because as I was mentioning earlier, challenges, obstacles, setbacks, they're part of the game of life, right? Not just in sport, but in all areas of life. I think it goes back to what the language is. I'm a firm believer, and one of my mentors taught me this: you only fail when you stop taking action, right? So it's that idea. Now, again, does that mean challenges, obstacles, and setbacks will come up? Yes. But one question I've learned is that this is where the power of questions and really having those questions that help you refocus. So one of my favorite quotes that I like to live by is the Nelson Mandela quote: I never lose, I either win or I learn. And why I love that quote is it reminds me that to be great at the game of life, you must learn to be objective with yourself, like no judgment, right? It's not positive, it's not negative, it just is. And then that reminds me that to ask those questions of what am I doing well? What can I do better? That's it, right? Because looking in the rearview mirror of, oh, you know, I should have done that, like it doesn't fix the past. Like the past is facts. But what I can do is focus on what I'm doing here in the now. What am I doing well? What can I do better? That's it. And if you apply those two questions to your life, any area, sports, relationships, finances, that is how you start to win what I call the effortless way.
And I think changing the look like this, it's not like about what did I do wrong? It's what can I do better? It's a different, I think it's a different perspective, but it changes everything, like the way you do the things.
Yeah. I heard, I'm not going to remember who said that, but I feel like someone told me once that like, doesn't matter, the answers, they are all there, you know, we have the answers for everything, but what we don't have are the questions. So sometimes we are asking the wrong questions, you know, so once we start asking the right questions, we start getting the answers that we need to then eventually succeed, you know?
Yeah. And that's that perception, right? That's your perception muscle, right? That's one of those higher conscious faculties that allows you to look at sort of both sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in your book, you talk a lot, of course, about athletes, performance and stuff like that, but you also talk about joy, calm, peace, you know, and I think for athletes that play in a high level, it's hard for them sometimes to find that. And I struggle with that, to be honest, you know? Yeah. So like, how to deal with the bigger picture as being a successful athlete and enjoying the process of, you know, of going to the field, about being tired and all the life athlete thing, you know? So how to deal with that? What do you think is the most important thing? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, again, a great question. And I think it's a great reminder for your audience that, hey, as athletes, again, the ambition and the drive, it's there, right? We're coachable. Like we like to get up and get after it. Like that's there. But also with that is, for many high-level athletes, it's about learning how to harness that ambition and drive, right? So I'm a firm believer that it's learning to create some harmony between being process-driven, but goal-oriented, right? Again, process-driven, goal-oriented. So again, that goal is kind of like a checkpoint. It's like a measure. It's a measurement. It's like a snapshot in time of how you're doing. That's it. It's not good or bad. It's just a measure. But the question, again, what does it mean to be process driven? It goes back to this idea of the goal is achieved, right? Like, let's say I have a goal to be, you know, NCAA. Let's say I want to be an All-American in soccer, because I know, Igor, you're saying that that's your big passion, right? Say I want to be an All-American in soccer at the NCAA. What thoughts and actions do I need to take today to be an All-American, right? So that's what I mean by being process-driven. It's creating alignment in your thoughts and actions today with where you want to be tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's kind of the play. Understand that you'll fall out of time. Sometimes you'll be like, whoa, like, oh, I'm not good enough. But you can always create that shift back, right?
No, I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of sense of purpose, like this. I don't know if I understood well, but like this, like process driven, it's like having a purpose, a reason to like to do it, and then with that reason, that purpose, you can build your goals that are more like achievable, like short goals, long-term goals, like whatever it is, and then you can measure if you are getting there or not, and that's very nice. It's the first time that I heard about that, so it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I like the idea of, you know, having like looking at the bigger picture, but also, you know, achieving those small goals like every day, you know, how to be successful every day towards the bigger picture, you know. So I think that's really important, and a lot of people miss that. So my next question is about happiness. I think happiness, it's so hard to talk about happiness because so many people define happiness is in a different way. So the happiness in sports, you think people can be happy not being where they want to be? And if you think they can, how?
Yeah, you know, I had a great coach and mentor that shared this with me. Focus on your goals, not on your results. Because if you're only looking at your results right now, if you're an ambitious, driven person like us, you're going to feel stuck because you're going to be aware enough to realize, like, I'm not where I want to be. And then all of a sudden, you know, the woe is me and all that. And hey, no judgment. We've all been there, right? But really learning again to focus on the goal creates that shift back because it reminds you why you did it, right? Everyone talk, you know, Simon's saying talk about start with why, right? Like focus on the why. And what I've really learned from doing this work, and especially over the last 2 years, is this: you have to find joy in the process. Because I think we've all had those goals before where we work really hard, we hustle and grind, and all of a sudden we just, and all of a sudden we get there and go, what's next? Right? Is that ever, right? I'm sure that's probably happened to you, right? So again, it's connecting to that feeling, right? Of celebrating the wins on a daily basis, like you talked about, whether you talk about gratitude, right? I remind myself, hey, those are blessings, right? Like celebrate those blessings every day, because the more you celebrate, you can be joyful, grateful, feeling blessed today. When you get to that end and you reach your goal, it's going to be that much sweeter. So yeah, again, here in the now, right? Like find the joy, find the blessings.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah. I feel that it's really interesting, but it's also really hard to do it. That's why I wanted to go a little bit deeper, especially in a situation where your team, or if you are an athlete that compete in an individual sport, your goal is to get to the final or make to the national championship, and you ended up like not getting there, ended up like not making this goal. But you did everything you could. How do you feel like I did, but I couldn't, the other team was better? How do you find that peace, that happiness in that situation?
Yeah, no, and that's a great question, right? And this is where it's so important. Again, simple ideas, right? About how to create that reset. So the fact is, okay, you weren't successful at this point, right? But again, it goes back to this idea. Ask yourself the question, what did I do well? What can I do better moving forward, right? And when you always look at it, it goes back to that Nelson Mandela quote, where I either win or I learn, right? Just because you lost that match doesn't mean that it's you're never going to win again. It's just now you need to refocus, right? Maybe you need to reprioritize some things, and then you get back on the path and you get back on. And why that's so powerful is that's the only difference, right, between athletes that, you know, great athletes and the ones that are, you know, average, is how quickly can you reset after quote unquote failure.
Yeah, I think the answer was like simpler than I thought, but it's just the hardest thing is having this mindset that, like, to remember this every day, like kind of having this quote in your head every time. I think that's the biggest thing for me, and probably most for all the athletes.
Yeah. And what I would share with you guys, again, from my experience, again, I was in education for 15 years, right? And I truly, part of why I dedicated my life to this work was I realized, you know, we're never taught, at least I was never taught these things. I know a lot of the athletes and students I've worked with have never taught these things. So this is why it's so important to have platforms like yours where you share these ideas, because most people aren't taught these ideas. So it's important that we give these, allow people to take from it what they want, apply it to their life, and then they'll start to see that, you know, only more greatness is going to ensue.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially because when we started, sometimes we had this conversation with awesome people that we never listened something like this before, and that's super cool. We need to share. And then it kind of goes in the same way you are saying, like, some people never heard. We never heard a lot of things, and you are very concerned about learning. Imagine someone that
never thought about it.
So that's really important, having this kind of conversation and sharing with people. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. I remember the other day I was talking to someone here at the school, and we kind of have these kind of conversations, and then I ask, have you heard of the law of attraction? And then the person said, I'm not sure. I think I remember learning that in school, in, I don't know, in a science class or something. I said, no, it's not about that, that's not the attraction that I'm talking about, So unfortunately, many people, they don't even have any ideas, how this conversation, the type of the language that we are using right now, many people are not even able to get what we were saying. So I that's why we feel like it's our duty to to share that. But I was gonna mention something that you mentioned about asking those questions. I think self-talk also is so important, right? Because like Gustavo was saying, I give everything. So there's no reason to be sad, but because the results didn't come, then you are sad, you are mad with your teammates or whatever. But then once you ask those questions, when you have that self-talk, I think those things becomes easier to see and get clear. So now you can see from a different point of view and say, okay, that's fine. I didn't get the results like we were mentioning. I didn't get the results, but my goals are still there. I did everything that I could. Wasn't the right time right now, but that will be the day that I'll achieve that because I'm doing the right thing,
Yeah. And you bring up a great point. We are programmed and we are conditioned to, we're trained to allow things outside of us to dictate to us whether we're winning or losing, right? You think of report cards, right? Like a report card, an arbitrary mark out of 0 to 100 defines what kind of student you are, right? The number on a scoreboard at that snapshot in time says if I'm a winner or a loser. So when that happens, I call that report card syndrome, where your results control your thinking. If you're not happy with your results, right, then that result, you're going to think not great about yourself. Then you're not going to feel very good. And then you're going to take some half-assed action. And it's just like this vicious cycle, right? Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Where when you actually stop and think, right? You focus there. When the thinking allows you think about, okay, what do I want? What's my goal? Then that will, again, allow me to feel better. When I feel better, I'll have a greater action, greater result, right? So long story short, what I'm really trying to get at here is what's controlling your thinking, right? Is your thinking controlling your results, or is your results controlling your thinking? So it's a big distinguishing between which of the two is working.
Good. I like that. And I'm going to take a note on that because I think it's really important. So my next question, still kind of on that side, the part that you were talking about your book. So how to apply love, kindness in a world in sports that is so competitive, because the other day we had a game here for soccer. And then the game was, pretty hard, 0-0. And then the last 5 minutes, the other team scored on us. And then the guys start cheering, and they come to me and start saying really bad words. And nothing happened during the game for them to call me what they called me, So how can I come to those guys after the game and say, hey, good game, good stuff, and, and still be kind, still, love the game and be a nice person when those things happen,
Yeah. And again, right, it's easier said than done, right? That's kind of the one. But that's where, I think back to it is you always have a choice in whether you react or whether you respond. So I always look at it that way, as sometimes a more powerful way is to say nothing. Hey, thank you. Great game. Because then at least, you are showing up in a way that is in alignment with who you want to be in this world, right? Of truly leading by example. And, I just feel like when you do that, it's only going to make, and I know this is very altruistic, but it's going to make the world a more loving and kind place, right? Because I'm a firm believer in, hey, the world needs less anger, needs less frustration, divisiveness, right? So for me, it always goes back to that idea of, you always have a choice, right? Whether you respond or whether you react. Would it be okay if I just share a quick story about that?
Please.
So my last couple of years of high school, we actually got beat by a team by 50 points. Now, they were a great team. They were more skilled. They were more talented than us. And I remember some of their players running by our bench, taunting our players, right? I remember guys cheering on the other team when some of our players got hurt. And I remember saying they're pulling them all aside because you could just feel the energy, right? You put a lot of alpha males, right? Big, strong, powerful athletes together. And I sat them down and I said, listen, I know that it's not easy to walk away, but this is the expectation. And what that reminded me, our players responded well. And it was just like, who they wanted to show up with. And I had a number of parents reach out to me after and came up to me and just thanked me for teaching their sons about how to show up in this world. And really, at the grand scheme of things, the score in a football game is small in comparison to that life lesson that those young men took that day. Here's the best part. That same group of men lost for 4 years to the same team, 8 times. Their last year, they beat them twice, once in the regular season, once in the final. And you know what? I'm a firm believer in, because they held the vision. They stuck to our goal. They bit the bullet when it was hard to, but that laid the foundation, because if they could be disciplined in that moment, being down by 50, having someone taunt you, call you all kinds of names, when the time came, they were just ready. They were so disciplined, so ready to go.
Oh yeah, I believe that's. I mean, for
so
me,
many things to.
Yeah, no, and for me that's true, 100%. You can call karma, you can call whatever you want, but I feel like if you're giving bad things to the world's gonna give back to you. That's. I don't know. For me, that's just the natural law of the world, and I truly believe that that's all what happened. It started like a long time ago when your players didn't respond, they didn't react, and they respond, right? So no, I love that.
And it's kind of the way that we go here. Like, we always talk that the ego is an enemy, and you need to fight your ego, and that's what our players did. Like they of course they wanted to react and to show some sort of power in that situation, but that's just your ego talking. Like, who you are is like walking away and be who you are, believe in who you are. And then sometimes you let the ego talk for you, and then you act like not like yourself.
Yeah. And again, like you guys are talking about, simple law of cause and effect, right? And it's powerful. When you control the input, the output takes care of itself.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, like you took a position of leadership there, talking to all those guys, and you talk about that a little bit in your book as well. So do you think leadership and success are connected?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Right. In order to, I'm a firm believer, regardless of what it is, whether you are a leader is really management, and management is the development of people. Right. And what I mean by that is every great leader, their focus is to help other people to achieve their goals and to help get them there faster and with greater ease, right? And that's what a great leader does. So yes, and anyone that is successful in life is, at least from the people I've met, the most successful people I've met are the greatest leaders and always the most giving people.
I love that. Yeah, no. And I feel like it's leadership something hard to talk about sometimes, because we see so many good players that they are not leaders. Like they help the team to play in a better way, with their skills, but sometimes they are not good giving speeches, or they are not good on talking or something. But I think there's so many different ways to lead, that I mean, if we get the people that are successful in the world, we'll see that in a certain way they were leader and they still are a leader, So yeah I agree with you. Yeah. So you good? Yeah. So my next and one of the main questions for us is how you define success.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. I go back to Earl Nightingale's quote, where Earl Nightingale talked about success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal or goal.
Okay.
So why I love that one is just, again, it's the progressive. So it's like this idea. So I'll share with everyone a story. I was out for a walk with my wife and kids, and, we were out in a green space, beautiful summer day. And all of a sudden we realized we don't know where we are. And then my son goes, "Are we lost?" Said, "No." And all we needed to do was to continue to start walking again. And by putting one foot in front of the other, we eventually found our way there. So I think that story just highlights that idea of, again, success is a process, right? It's a journey. It's filled with ebbs and flows, but it's learning how to keep a great attitude during those ebbs and flows that really ultimately will lead to that success.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. And you were mentioning about that before, and about when we see like the difference between the champion athletes and average athletes, sometimes it's not even their technical skills, it's how they deal with failure. It's how they come back from a loss, so that's for me, that's what you say. And if I don't know, I just feel like the mindset, the mentality, that's what really makes the difference. That's what really make people succeed, and some people not being a failure but just being average.
Yeah, and I really like the way you said, because as I said before, it looks so simple, and it kind of, and it's not that hard to realize what is the right thing to do and how to enjoy the process, how to be happy. Because I feel that success is kind of goes the same way with happiness. Like happiness is not the outcome, it's like the process as well. So we got to enjoy the process. You're never going to be in a place, now I'm happy, I don't need to do anything else. I'm always going to be looking for something else. And just the reminder, the daily application of what you learned, and that's the most hard, it is the hardest thing.
And you bring up a great point. And one of the ideas that we've been all led to believe is that success has to be a hustle, it has to be a grind. And right, like that's a really popular term in sport. But the question I always like to ask people is, why does it have to be a grind? Like, whose idea is that? Your idea? Or is that, so when you really start to question like these beliefs that we have, you start to realize that when you start to ask different questions, your eyes get more wide open, right? Your awareness starts to grow, your mind starts to get open to more possibilities. And when that happens, that's where, you start to experience more love, joy, and peace, right? And that's what I like to call it, is like winning the effortless way.
Yeah, I really like this, like being open-minded to this kind of thing, because like for you, maybe to achieve success, you got to hustle every day of your week, and then you're going to feel satisfied in the end of the week. But that's for you. It doesn't mean that it is for me. And I need to find what is success for me, what is happiness for me. and being open-minded to new possibilities is gonna be what makes you see these other perspectives.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm reading a book right now. It's called the Code of the Extraordinary Mind, and I was talking to Gustavo about it, and the guy, he talks a lot about that. You know, it's like why is like that. You know, so like you need to be successful in your own terms. You know, not on other people's terms. So like what successful mean to you. You know, so it's really important for us to be open-minded and ask ourselves like, okay, but why it needs to be like this, you know? So like he was mentioning in the book how he got a divorce and they had a party to celebrate the divorce, you know? And said, but why is that wrong? You know, like, am I just living in other people's terms or am I doing my own terms, you know? So like, oh, there is no rule or law that says that celebrating a divorce is wrong, you know? So like, it's still hard for us, especially, you know, to see success and not being someone that work too hard, you know, or do this or do that. But like the truth is that like we just gotta be successful on our own terms, you know, on how we define success. You know, and like the guy in the book, he mentions a lot about like most of the things that we live by, we're living by imitation. You know, like we're just doing the same thing that other people are doing. You know, like be successful is having a lot of money and being famous. Oh, why? You know, like if it's because I really think that's true, or it's because the other people think that's true. You know, so I love that. So. JG, thank you so much. Like I was talking to you before, I really want people to read your book. So, so guys, if you guys are listening to our podcast right now, we're gonna have some tasks that you gotta follow, and then we're gonna give away a book from JT. Yeah, so thanks so much. I think that book will help a lot of people. The same way this episode is gonna, you know, open a lot of minds around there. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, Igor and Gustavo, for inviting me on. And I just want to acknowledge you for the work you're doing. I think you guys, you know, being open and willing to share your journey, right? To share what you're learning, your growth, and just giving an opportunity for other people, even to just listen, is amazing. And it speaks volumes about who you guys are as servant-based leaders. So I love what you're doing, and I look forward to, you know, continuing the conversation.
For sure. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your words and for participating. Give your time.
And we were waiting on the next book because I really enjoyed. Really easy to. I think I finished the book in like 2 days. I think so. Like and thanks so much for, you know, for sharing all those thoughts with us. You know, like writing a book, and you have your own podcast as well. So yeah, thanks so much. I'll make sure I'll tag you and I'll share your podcast because I saw that you have many great guest speakers there. So I want people to be able to listen to that as well.
Definitely. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.